Teddy Gentry gained a lot of notoriety, or that's probably an understatement, with the band Alabama. As a bass player and vocalist, he has made a massive impact on the culture of the United States, especially the South. But what a lot of people might not know is that he has developed, over the course of almost 50 years, a breed of cattle that are game changers in the regenerative grass-finished space. So he's got a lot of theories in how and why he did it, and was lucky enough to get him on the phone to have a call. So a little bit of an unconventional interview, but one that I think is really cool to have a cultural icon and somebody that impacts regenerative agriculture that I'm so passionate about. All right, Teddy, thank you for joining us as we dive into a little bit more on the regenerative agriculture. I think your story is fascinating in that you have developed your own breed of cattle, a long-time cattleman. And so if you don't care, can you tell me your story on how you got into the cattle business?
Yes, sir. I bought my grandfather's old cotton farm in 1980. It was about 60 acres is what started our farming operation. And from there, we added to my great-grandfather's farm and my uncle's farm, and we wound up with about 300 acres. That was started with Hereford cows in 1980. And I really didn't know very much about cattle at all. At that point, I'd never been raised around cattle, so it was kind of, I figured out that if I was going to be in the cattle business, I better learn something about it. So I started studying cattle like I was going to college almost, I guess, as far as every article I could read about beef cattle and magazine articles, whatever, tried to study. So over a 4-year period, I decided on trying to I didn't feel like that we had a breed that was, would do what we wanted it to do in the South, which was be a great mama cow, be able to stand the heat and humidity of the South, and give us a tender piece of meat. And that was a challenge that we didn't have a breed that would do that back in the 80s, early 80s when I started this project. So we decided we would try to put together a composite breed that would do all those things, and started down a long road of trying to put a composite breed together and try to get through the first few years of heterosis and have lock in some line inbred and line bred traits that we felt were important to the cow-calf operator. But it took a long period of time, 4 or 5 years of studying which breeds to put together, and then it's still going on. It's been a lifetime of perfecting the breed.
Well, we through the market I have, we carry meat, and the South Pole genetics is a big part of the grass-fed, grass-finished world. I think that the farming practices are a really big issue that we've got to do. And Teddy, I don't know what you're seeing, but I am seeing us lose a whole lot of farmers, and it's really scary. We've either got mass consolidation of farming. I think when the Secretary of Ag, Earl Butz, said get big or get out, I think he meant it, and we've been still doing that for many, many years. So what have you seen on the front of regenerative agriculture, and do we have something to be excited for on kind of this next generation coming in and taking up building out these more resilient food systems and farming practices?
Oh yeah, I think we started what was this called, basic rotational grazing back in the mid to the late 80s, and it's all it come full circle now of the South Pole, or kind of we feel is the ideal beef cattle breed to working the system of mob grazing or amp grazing, or what the modern day term you want to use for it is. But the whole system is now in place so that the knowledge is there on how to graze in the most efficient manner and take care of our land and our soil and our cattle at the same time. But it's the tools for young cattlemen coming on today to make a living in the cattle business are there. The information on how to do it and the breed of cattle. Where it's the South Pole around, there's other breeds of cattle out there. I'm not saying they're the only breed, but they seem to be work best in this system that we've come up with.
So I'm in Arkansas, so I know that y'all have a pretty good showing, say Missouri, and then through the South into Alabama. So why does genetics and why do longevity and fertility so important for having this profitability, therefore having more and more resilient farmers?
Well, in the cow-calf operation, we've known for years there's no hidden fact that fertility and longevity are your two money-making traits above everything else, above carcass traits, above anything that you want to name. Fertility and longevity is your money makers as far as the cow-calf operation goes, and that's kind of what we've decided that's going to be our claim to fame is the mama cow. In fact, we call the South Pole the Southern Mama Cow because we feel that she's the measuring stick to beat. But these cattle are gentle. They're a pleasure to be around. They're easy to work on rotational grazing. You haven't got to drive them; they'll come to you. But genetics are is a super part of it, like the genetics for corn that we now have. It's no different than cattle. We can produce a lot more off the same acreage by the efficiency of our breeds.
Absolutely. One thing that we cover a lot on my platform is health, and I feel like having more of a decentralized, I keep saying the resilient food system. It's just I think it looks different than what most people think our food looks like. But trying to combat that meat is bad for us and it causes heart disease and cancer and all these things that I think that are absolutely false. I don't think that's accurate at all. We've got to be able to kind of educate on so many fronts. And so that's why I am so passionate about trying to make sure that we've got our farmers successful and we support them in a way that is, everybody benefits. Because Teddy, what's scared me is I've grown up around the commercial side of stuff, and I see how fragile things were, especially through COVID within the food system and the potential for some sort of a disease outbreak, wiping out, not having the genetic diversity. So, where do you feel that we get to the next step of getting more awareness around that topic as a whole of supporting the local and supporting maybe directly from farmers? What's that next thing that you see from that farming and breed specific side?
Well, the South Pole, one of the breeds that made up the South Pole composite was a breed called Barzona. The Barzonas were known as the hardy breed, and they are indeed very hardy cattle. Just very seldom ever see a sick one, or they just seem to thrive off of being out on grass and pasture, and having a healthy cattle is very much part of it. It starts with having small calves. The South Pole calves average from about 45 to about 60-pound birth weight. They're like little deer, and then they're up and nursing, and in a couple of weeks' time, they're off and running and ready to get on with life. But problem-free cattle is part of it. If we haven't spend all our time doctoring and treating cattle for sickness, then we don't have time to take care of the overall herd. I
love that. So what do you hope to see, say, the future of the South Pole Association and the South Pole breed? What are your hopes and dreams for something that you've fostered for so many years?
Well, I think that literally should take over the commercial cattle industry, the cow-calf operation in the South in the years to come, because of the efficiency, fertility, and longevity, like I spoke of before. I don't think we have any real competition from any other breed that I can see on the horizon for doing what we specialize in doing. I just think that they'll be they're one of the hottest breeds out there now, and I think they will continue to be so. From the genetics and also from the people involved, we don't necessarily have to have sales like they typically have and give away 15 to 25% of your money to people that have nothing to do with adding any value to your cattle. So if you merchandise it between you and the customer, that's great. That's what we're trying to do.
What is the consumer feedback? So when, say we're eating ground beef or steak or ribs or whatever that is, what is the consumer saying in comparing South Pole to, any other breed, whether Hereford, Brangus, Wagyu? What is that feedback?
Well, one of the studies you can look at, University of Florida, every couple of years they do a major beef taste test. It's a blind taste test where they got 20-something trained professionals that come in, and over a 2-day period they grade the beef quality. And South Pole beat all the other breeds at the last test they had. You're welcome to read about it. But we're not trying to promote ourselves as we want to be acceptable carcass-wise with any of the other good English breeds out there, Hereford or Angus, or even with the Wagyu crosses. I think that South Pole will stand up to about any of the other breeds as far as the meat quality goes. But we want to be known as a maternal cow-calf breed that also eats good.
And I see the opportunity there in that those management practices. So, we've got a lot of, scientists studying the metabolomics, right? Like, so Dr. Stefan Van Vliet has gone into having all the different, positive molecules within the meat based off of diverse grazing and a lot of different factors. But it seems to me that the South Pole worked perfectly in the systems that are, the diverse and the regenerative and the rotational grazing, all of that stuff. But what it seems to be doing is providing a much healthier meat and a more profitable enterprise.
Well, high quality meat is more than just a breed. It's people being able to correctly finish grass-fed beef is one of the challenges that we have. Just because an animal is raised on beef on grass alone is no sign it's going to be tender. It's got to have a diet of high quality forage for the last 80 to 100 days of its life to be able to put on some back fat and be able to marble a little bit off of grass. But this is all genetics have a large part to do with it. But management, then you have to have people that know how to finish a steer.
Absolutely. Do you have anybody that you really admire or appreciate or would recommend on teaching those kind of practices?
Well, Greg Judy is about as good a grazer as there is out there as far as the overall grazing system. I think anybody that can. He's got a lot of videos out there on a lot of different subjects, and he's one of the tops in my opinion. But there's others as well.
Well, Teddy, thank you for your time. I cannot thank you enough. We're going to keep touting the South Pole and regenerative agriculture, and I just want to thank you for your contributions to this and coming up with such an amazing breed.
Well, it wasn't just me. I feel like that I had a lot of support especially from the early South Pole breeder members that came on board and believed in what we were doing and gave us support, and most particularly the good Lord for the times when maybe I was even doubting myself of what we were trying to do. he would always make a way for us to come through, and I think it's the cattle business is going to be better for it.
Well, I love that. I love that. I know you're on the road, my friend. Thank you for taking the time to jump on a call with me and share a good little conversation from, behind the scenes.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for joining us in the Sowing Prosperity mission. If you like this content, like and subscribe, share with your friends. Be sure to check out sowingprosperity.com. Sign up for the email. We've got so much more work to do.